Welcome to another episode of A Cuppa with the Conversationalist. My name is Con and I am the Conversationalist. And yes, I have my cuppa in hand. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the hottest topics going around, and that's AI, artificial intelligence. And my guest today will be able to shed much light on the topic, particularly in the context of business and how it can help us in business. My guest today is Dave Demczuk from Atria Systems. Dave's a seasoned IT professional with over 25 years of experience in the industry. His interest in AI systems began in the early 2000s, and with some of the first publicly available generative learning algorithms. His expertise lies in demystifying complex technological concepts, particularly in the realm of small business. Dave has a unique ability to translate intricacies of AI into layman's terms, making it accessible and understandable for all. His focus on business communications, from presenting at meetings to generating detailed reports, has been instrumental in helping businesses seamlessly integrate technology into their operations. And AI is already a huge part of that and will only grow, particularly in the medium to long term. Dave's passion for technology and his knack for clear, effective communication makes him a valuable asset in the rapidly evolving world of AI. Welcome, Dave. How are you today?
Thank you very much, Con. Yep, happy to be here today.
Pleasure to have you here, Dave. Pleasure. Dave, let's just very briefly start off with giving some context to the listeners in terms of what AI is.
Yeah, sure. Look, artificial intelligence takes many forms. Most of you probably won't realize that you've been using AI for many, many years, and AI has been part of our daily lives for many years. It's been in your Facebook feeds. It's been in the back end of search. It's certainly been in, you type something into your GPS and it takes you a certain direction. That could be construed as AI. It's a pretty broad area, and it has been around for a long time. In fact, my father always used to call it artificial stupidity because it will come up with some really stupid responses on occasion. But there was another guy that I spoke to recently. He said a bit of an in-joke is that AI is as bad today as it's ever going to be.
Wow.
So it's only getting better and better, and it seems to be going faster and faster in today's society.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you make, Dave, because as you mentioned, or as we mentioned in your intro, it's certainly been around for a little while, and you go back to 2000. It seems to have exploded in the last 12 to 18 months. And
yeah, absolutely.
Even my really limited knowledge of it, there are just so many AI tools that are out there, and it's just exploded.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it went through what the internal people call an AI winter, essentially, where there's not a lot of external development. But then obviously it's been picked up by the media, in particular Chat GPT, which is probably mostly what we'll talk about today. Chat GPT is basically a language model. It's developed by a company called OpenAI. Essentially, it's machine learning, and it takes text. It's been trained basically on the whole internet, which has probably not been done before, or if it has, it hasn't been publicized. And then it takes all that information and it answers in a natural language way, making it seem smart, which is why we call it artificial intelligence, even though it is only using the responses and patterns it's learned during training. And particular Chat GPT has been limited by the data up until which it was trained on, which is about 2021, something like that.
Okay. From a business perspective, there are just so many tasks that it appears that AI is now able to perform, and at a relatively high level. I mean, we know that AI, particularly what Chat GPT produces, isn't perfect, but it's certainly usable. How is it impacting business, and from both a positive and a negative perspective from your view?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a really good question. With the explosion and growth of people using it, I think it reached 100 million monthly users sometime in January, which is bigger than a lot of social media platforms were when they were in their infancy. So, I mean, it's growing at such a huge rate, and you almost seems like everyone you talk to, oh yeah, I used it to write an email, or oh yeah, I used it to do something else in a business context. We'll talk a little bit more later on about how companies like Microsoft are leveraging that and making it and integrating it even more into business. But certainly, like as far as challenges go, there are people in industries, particularly creative writing industries. They're striking in the US, the Writers Guild, and one of the reasons they're striking is because of the use of AI in the industry. And are they getting replaced by AI? Are the shows we're going to watch going to be written by AI? To some degree, probably yes, is the answer. But someone still needs to drive those prompts. It's kind of like back in the day, if you wanted to build a road, you had to have 10 guys with shovels. There was always one or two just standing around doing not much. But now you can get one machine driven by 3 guys, and you can build miles and miles of road with very, very little human input. It'll be similar in that AI space in those particular fields. But I could not say that it's not going to take any jobs, because it may well do so. But by and large, AI is not going to unclog your bathroom toilet. AI is not going to run your electricity, your wires in your home. Physical activities cannot be taken over by this at this stage.
Okay. So from a business perspective, what are some of the tools? We've spoken about Chat GPT, and I'm certainly somebody that has used it, not with a great deal of effect, I might add, but nevertheless, I've experimented, and I'm understanding that this is a significant event in history, and so I'm trying to get on board, and I'm actually going to a seminar this afternoon. Dave, creative things are certainly something that I find are quite time-consuming. Writing blogs and social media posts, PowerPoints, creating imagery, particularly for Instagram and some of those profiles. How is not Chat GPT, how is AI from a business perspective, and what tools are there you can suggest that are helpful to businesses moving in that area?
Yeah, sure. So it's massive for content creation, and exactly all of those things that you mentioned gives us all the ability to create content that we always had imagined in our heads, but we didn't have access to the people or the skills to be able to do. Like you said, to do a blog post with some imagery associated with that, could involve 3 or 4 people. Now you can do it from your home. You can use Chat GPT to generate the actual conversation, the blog post itself. If you need to draw some imagery of some food on a plate, you can have photorealistic imagery come through with something like Midjourney is really good at the moment. It's a Discord only, but DALL-E, DALL-E, is the open AI version of that. Not quite as good, but it still will generate AI-based imagery. And there's one in Bing, and there's quite a lot out there. So you can essentially generate the whole box and dice yourself, and then move on to the next thing. You can start generating something else, which is great.
What we will do is the sites that Dave mentions along the way here, I will put them in the notes. And so you can reference them and go back and have a look.
So as far as content creation goes, and I guess we'll have a short conversation about it shortly. on how to do this stuff. We'll talk about it in broad terms to start with. I mean, it's fantastic as like a virtual assistant, for example. You can ask it sort of to do things and ask it to redo things, and it won't roll its eyes at you and say, "Oh, again." Do you know what I mean? It'll really just it'll just do what you ask it to do. Doesn't always get it right. It always needs a guiding hand, and you need to be reading what content it is producing, not just copy pasting and putting it out there, because quite a bit of it is garbage in, garbage out, which is an old computer term, but
yes, I remember that
there's
one.
plenty of garbage out there. Sort of going forward, there's a product called that Microsoft are releasing called Copilot. So they're going to be integrating essentially Chat GPT functionality within Office productivity apps. So if you go into Word or Excel or Outlook, for example, you get an email and you say, I want to create a presentation based on this email. It'll essentially open up PowerPoint. It'll add images for you. It'll add slides. It'll add text. It'll just generate all that for you. It's pretty mind blowing. We'll link some videos, the promo videos from it. It looks pretty amazing, and that's coming in the next 3 to 6 months. They already have it out on limited release. So,
goodness gracious me!
But that's going to look. It's going to be fantastic, really. I mean, how many tedious hours do you spend doing some of this stuff, where you could just be moving on and doing something real with your own brain?
I read some statistics recently, Dave. The amount of businesses that are not adopting AI at this point, and it's staggering. It's staggering. It's a bit like the analogy that somebody used was when the internet first came about, and it was a fad. Everyone was convinced it was a fly by night. It was here today and it would be gone tomorrow. And it took some time, but obviously it is now a way of the world and it's not going anywhere soon. And I feel that AI is the same. People are going, too hard, I'm not going to use it. But the impact that it can have on their resources, their time and productivity is just phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Look, far from drinking the Kool-Aid and thinking it's a wonderful world, it is fantastic for productivity, and it is going to be it is going to empower us to do things that, free us up to do things that we really want to do in business and in life. If you can get something done in 5 minutes that was taking you an entire day, why not have a 4-day work week? You know what I mean? And I only read an article yesterday about it's gaining traction here in Australia. There's quite significant companies and quite a few companies moving to 4-day work weeks. And certainly no reason not to if you can be effective at your job within a shorter period of time. And you're happier for it. Fantastic.
Exactly. Dave, so some of the AI applications or tools that are there, we've spoken about Chat GPT, which, again, as you mentioned, garbage in, garbage out. So the better the quality question, the better the quality answer you're going to get from it. With regards to things like PowerPoint and images, I use Buzzsprout as my host. They now have an AI tool available which will basically provide you show notes, all the key points right the way through, which is quite staggering. So going back to those other tools, what businesses do you believe can benefit or are best served to start looking or adopting these AI tools?
Well, it's going to be a range of business, but certainly businesses that are doing any sort of content generation is going to be the first adopters, probably. those companies. Well, a big problem, for example, in web development in the past has always been you create this amazing website, it looks fantastic for the customer. Not that I do this, but I have dealt with web people for quite a while. This amazing website, it's beautiful, and you say now you just have to, customer, please put in your products, put in your write something about your products. 6 months goes by and they haven't written nothing about their products because no one has the time to actually fill their content in. Now you can generate that content with the help of something like Chat GPT, and you can get your customers' websites up quicker. They're going to be happier. So those sorts of industries are really going to take advantage of it a lot sooner. But then you've got your corporates, accountants, lawyers, that sort of thing, that everyone has meetings, right? Everyone has to present at meetings. Whoever's going to be presenting at those meetings, you've got an agenda, you've got something to talk about. Why not use AI to augment and to assist you to create a good format that people are going to be interested in? They're not going to fall asleep just listening to death by PowerPoint kind of thing, because AI will generate something that is probably more acceptable from that point of view. So it's going to help a lot of people in that regard. But people still need to obviously deliver it. They need to know the information. If you just generate it and then rock up to a meeting, you're going to be flying blind. And when it tells you to take the bananas down to the school, instead of deliver the Excel financials like you should have done, you probably will wish you read it, kind of thing.
Another interesting thing, talking about websites, is, and I don't know the name of, I should have looked it up, an AI site that will build a website. It will ask you for a business profile, what you do, some details, and it will build it for you, code, the whole box and dice.
Yeah, there's a couple out there. One of them, there's one called Durable. It's not the greatest look, but again, a lot of these things are in their infancy. Sort of getting a little bit into the weeds of it, but essentially what a lot of the developers are doing are taking, let's say, Chat GPT, call it Chat GPT, and then they're chaining that along into other programs. So, like, let's say I say I want to generate an image of Con and Dave having fun in a podcast situation. ChatGPT can't do that for you. You need to put that into a language, into an image generation tool. But if you just write that, you might not get the result you want. So what you do is you get ChatGPT to write you a prompt that's going to give you the result that you want out of the image generation program. So that you can chain quite a few of them together. And I mean, it goes into the next step. There's video ones out there. Most of them are private at the moment, but there's starting to be more and more video ones that are available to use. There's one called Potat One AI, which is open source. So again, businesses will be able to use that to generate, social media content, that sort of thing.
Yeah, actually, while you're on that, there's actually a site that I used, and again, I should be better. I should have the name, but I will put it in the notes. You put in long form video and it will spit out bite-sized chunks ready for social media.
Yeah, fantastic.
And its level of accuracy certainly isn't 100%, but by goodness, it's good. And with some very simple modifications, I can get 5 or 6 snippets out of a long form video in under 15 minutes. And normally that would take me half a day. At the end of that, I'm not an editor. I certainly don't have a high level of expertise in that area, but I can see how somebody in that field would reap enormous benefits by using a tool like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's all about augmenting our world and our desires to create something. The AI at the moment is it is listening to our prompts and saying, yes, okay, I can do that for you. And it's getting better and better and better at doing that, which is going to empower us. I think it's fantastic from that point of view. So
just as we wind up, Dave, just what you mentioned about how it's learning and improving. I'm a massive Arnold Schwarzenegger fan, and the Terminator certainly is one of my favourite movies. And of course, for those that aren't familiar with the story of the Terminator, it's exactly what we're talking about. It's artificial intelligence that learns. It's entrusted by the US military. It takes over and it starts a war against mankind. How real is that?
Well, there was an article even this week in The Guardian where US Air Force general was talking about using AI in a simulation of a drone attack. And essentially the drone operator at some point for operational reasons said, no, we don't want to attack that target. But the AI drone got its points from attacking the target. So it came up with the solution of destroying the operator so it could keep getting its points.
Wow.
Then they said, well, you'll get minus 1 million points if you kill the operator. You can't do that anymore. So that drone went off and it destroyed the communications tower. So the operator couldn't tell it not to destroy the target. So they're now calling that a thought experiment, but there's quite good evidence to prove that they may well have done that experiment. It's all in simulation, of course, but those are some of the dangers of giving weaponized systems to artificial intelligence. And they just need to iron out the bugs. I mean, the problem really isn't necessarily the US. The problem might be countries that don't necessarily subscribe to, and this is for Chat GPTs for everything, is countries that will not legislate it. You can't necessarily imagine some of those countries that are not they're a little looser with their lawmaking. Certainly use it for means that are not necessarily the greatest. So there is a concern. But to be honest, Con, you or I, or 90% of your listeners, 99% of your listeners will not be stopping it. This is happening whether we like it or not. So we may as well use it, get that 4-day work week, and enjoy life a little bit more, I say.
Get on board with it. Dave, sage words. Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today about AI. And we've had a brief chat earlier, and I know the other thing we're going to do a podcast, we're going to have a good chat about is cybersecurity, because I know you have a high level of practical experience in your business in that. And that's another thing that is very, very high in terms of what's going on in the world nowadays. But that's for another podcast. Folks, it's been an absolute pleasure. My guest today has been Dave Demczuk from Atria Systems. We've been talking about AI. My name is Con. I am the Conversationalist. And until next time, bye for now.